Hello, Stephen White for Steve Arts 89 here. Chaos Theory. Okay, so yes, Spock and Number One are back. This is great. We didn't see enough of them in Discovery Season 2. The only good thing about Discovery Season 2 was Captain Pike. And the Enterprise and Number One were sort of there for about one episode and they disappeared and they came back the last two episodes. And it wasn't enough. Spock was there the whole time, but he was a mess. He eventually got himself together, but he was a mess. So this is good. Now, there was talk of short treks and doing the same thing, doing 4 episodes between the seasons like they did with season 1 and 2, although some of those were very bad and contradicted season 1, which was baffling. But there's talk of 6 now, and they're doing 2 animated ones and 4 live action. The first one is going to be from Pike and the Enterprise, what hopefully should be, or what hopefully will be, the Pike TV series, which I'm just hoping they do. Now it's directed by Mark Pellington and written by Michael Chabon. It's got, of course, Ethan Peck and Rebecca Romaine. I can't pronounce the name. Should be able to. They had a 6-day shoot in the end of May, I think, and the director posted some pictures of the Clapper and of the actors with him. There's no sight or mention of Anson Mount. As we know, he's been very tight-lipped. He said he will do the series, he's happy to do the series, but there's a lot of things that will have to be sorted out. There was some drama when he had a 1-year contract, and everyone knew he had a 1-year contract. He was just going to be there for season 2. But as he finished up his shooting and his contract for season 2, apparently CBS let out some gossip that there was it was suggested there was a physical altercation between him and one of the directors, and it went to HR and there was problems in that, and they seem to be trying to imply that he was fired, which is ridiculous because he had a 1-year contract. You can't be fired from a season of a TV show you're not supposed to be on. So that seems to be gossip from other sites and articles that picked it up, but they were picking up something that was released, so that should never really have been talked about. And they did the same thing with the showrunners that were fired. They said that they had abused stuff and that may be true, but why did they have to release it? It just seems like they're trying to it's not very nice. I'm not even going to go into that. It's a whole other video. So I think that's it. We don't really have any other information, just that everyone's excited about it and everyone's talking about it. Now, Picard, they're halfway through the 10 episodes. They were doing 2 episode blocks directed by the same director to save money, and they've done the first 2, so Jonathan Frakes is finished, and they're into the 3rd one, so they've done 5 episodes. Now, the rumour that they've already done a testing of 1 or 2 episodes, the first 1 or 2 episodes, and had really bad results, and that there's problems, seemed a bit more unlikely. I mean, I felt they could have done it, but now people are starting to realise, they've been going really fast. They could have had something up to show people, so it could have happened, but it's still just a rumour. And unfortunately, most of Midnight's Edge stuff is a rumour, but it's interesting, and some of it comes true, and it does come from sources, so it's interesting, but it's hard to. They have such not necessarily Midnight's Edge, but some of the other YouTubers have such clickbaity, hate sort of orientated element that it's hard to take them 100% seriously, because they so obviously are just gleefully hating on the show, but mostly for reasons that exist and that other people share. So now Star Trek Discovery is supposed to be up to season 3, script 5. They're doing the scripts basically, so they're not really in production. They haven't built anything, haven't hired anyone, no actors, no nothing. They've just done. They're working on the scripts, and they've done 5 out of. We're guessing they're going to do 14 like season 2. Now, Kurtzman has been all over the place, seeming to be contradicting and countering the gossip that he'd been fired, or that he'd been removed from directly working on Star Trek and been put onto something else and just left there in name, which I thought was perfectly plausible as happening, because I can understand why they want to get him away from it, and if they've got contracts with him, they're working with him with other shows, they can't just get rid of him, so they'd have to just move him onto something else where, to compensate or something. So I'm not still 100% convinced he's as involved as he's saying, but he did a bunch of interviews talking about the 5 and 10 year plan they've proposed to CBS for Star Trek, and that they're happy with it, and the idea of that they're going to just get different shows and have them running. One finishes, the other one starts, and they're all going to be very different for different areas and elements of Star Trek and different areas of the fan base. So that's sort of their approach. Now they're trying to work a Pike show in to that global brand, but they're not actually sure how to do it, or they could just be in negotiations with Mount due to that drama, or just due to money. Like, often these things are very complicated, and the negotiations and planning for a show can drag on for a very long time before it actually gets into actual real production. And the interesting thing is that Kurtzman is trying to sound flexible. He said that he's basically gone online and looked at all the good and bad because he wants to hear both sides, and he's happy to actually try to appease the fans and actually do some course changes and change things about the show. Because the main concern that I had was it sounded like he had one Star Wars-like idea for the show on general audience approach, and he was just doubling down and just gonna do that, even though the fans hated it and it was not getting the reaction that Netflix and other people wanted for the series. It looks like he's actually being flexible, and that's all I ask of him, is that he looks at what the fans want, looks at what Star Trek is, and just follows that instead of trying to do his own thing and his own version of Star Trek, because no one really wants to see his version of Star Trek. There are new fans that have come in through Discovery who like that, but they're kind of separate from everyone else in the fan base, which is why there's this huge divide where they basically try to turn Star Trek, and there used to be Star Trek fans versus Star Wars fans, and now Discovery has sort of brought the two groups and two types of people into the same fan community, and they are just tearing each other apart, and it's a mess. It's a bit of a shitstorm. I myself had an interesting weekend. I went to Sydney. I live in Melbourne. I went to Sydney to see the Supanova convention in November. I mostly went for Barbara Eden as Jeannie, but Anson Mount was there, so I went to see his talk. A lot of the talk was about Hell on Wheels, not even about Star Trek. And some of it was from some fairly basic questions from people who have just been watching that show and don't really know anything about Star Trek. They had a competition for a dozen pizzas from Papa Giuseppe, and my friend wanted them. I wasn't interested, and I said, okay, I'll get them for you. So no one else really knew the answer to the question, so I knew I wouldn't be out triviaed. So I won that for him, and enjoy your pizza. And then I didn't pose any questions for Mount because I knew he wouldn't actually answer anything, because he's being diplomatic and possibly negotiating for work on the series or the short treks at the moment. So he's not going to jeopardize that. And I went to meet him, and I started to ask him about Discovery. I said, I hope they make it, and ask him if he'd do it and that. And his answer was exactly what he's been saying in other interviews and that. So I just dropped it. And I just said, look, I'm a purist. I don't like Discovery. You're the only thing about it I liked, but I did really like you in the show, and he said, that's fine, I respect that. It's good that you care about it, unlike some people, and there's nothing worse than mediocrity. And when he signed my autograph, he said, with respect, and I thought, well, that was a nice exchange. And he seems like a very charming, intelligent guy, talented actor, and I hope they do a series with him. And I think I'm going to leave it there. Because I don't want this to go too long. I'm trying to keep my videos under 10 minutes because I talk too much about stuff. So please feel free to like, subscribe, and comment, because I like reading the comments. I